I'm Sophia Wang. I'm a research associate at Outliers Fund, and this is our team's first year being FII members. So up until very early this year, I was working at NASA. My background is formally in aerospace engineering, so I was building robots for autonomous space systems, which I was very much engaged in. And then I sort of took a step back and thought about career aspirations maybe 10, 15 years down the line and wanting to really formatively shape technology ecosystems, and that involving policy as well as public-private partnerships. And so it felt very natural actually to transition from that role of being a systems integrator in a traditional aerospace setting, and then moving towards venture capital where you're actively building ecosystems. And so I've been just very excited to work on building out the commercial space economy. The Outliers Fund runs two funds. One is called the Outliers Scientific Fund, which is where I lead research. The other is called the Outliers Intelligence Fund, which focuses on investments in AI and quantum computing. And so for our space fund, the Scientific Fund, we're planning on investing in around 300 US-based companies over the next 5 years and being one of the top 3 largest space funds in the US. So I'd say one of the big challenges is finding the right profile of institutional investors that are willing to sort of hedge on the space industry's growth over the next 10 years. There's historically been a lot of complaints, many of them valid, about bloat within sort of the government procurement system, and given sort of how heavily the space industry relies on that type of federal contracting, I think it's a real question of whether there is sort of the right public structures to actually support a commercial space industry. FII is quite special. At one of the conclaves earlier today, we were discussing that the FII is almost like a separate organization from the United Nations, which mostly serves countries, right? But I guess FII is unique in that it brings global political leaders together alongside private industry leaders, and I think that's very unique. Every moment was a highlight, but I was just so impressed by the caliber of leaders that sort of the FII team was able to bring in. We really enjoyed listening to Eric Schmidt speak, and also Fei Li. Because we're researchers at heart, I think we were just excited to see kind of our heroes in our industries actually be sort of applauded and given a platform. I think for us, we really want to see space become this deeply multilateral platform and an environment. And that's already happening, right, with the International Space Station, which was originally a collaboration between the US and Russia after the Cold War and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And so we kind of want to make sure that space stays this very international sort of arena, and for that reason, I think where FII could be most useful for us is connecting us with different sovereign space agencies. So we've already had good conversations with the Saudi Space Agency through FII, which has been great because we want to sort of also bring in Middle Eastern, Arab astronauts, right? They deserve a place in these platforms as well. So I think accessibility is very front of mind, and especially at the scale that we're thinking, this is, at the national level, it's not easy necessarily to get sort of access to these leaders. So I think FII gives us sort of the plausible platform to do that. I'd say if you're working in an industry that is inherently international and requires collaboration between policymakers and industry leaders, then there's probably no better place than FII for you to sort of grow your industry in a very mindful and thoughtful way. FII is collaborative, thoughtful, and ambitious. Everything keeps me on my toes. I think space is just evolving so rapidly. Actually, one thing that Outliers Fund does is that every day we basically take the top 5 sort of news articles, and recently that's been 5 to 12 news articles, right? Because it's just been changing so quickly. So it's been great to fly all over the world and meet these space agencies, meet astronauts, and also meet investors that are willing to sort of bet on this future that's collective. So I would say like every day is a new adventure. Yeah.